So my work is having a When in Rome themed homeschool day. I am very excited about it. I've put a lot of hard work into planning this and to putting this on for our community. So I think it's going to be a really great event, but I decided that the Roman outfit that I kind of had thrown together was not historically accurate enough for me as a museum person to stand up there and talk about, which left me one option, which is to make a new one. So I'm making a Tunica, a Stola, and a Palla, which I'll tell you a little bit more about as we get sewing, because we really need to get sewing. I have to have this done by tomorrow. I started it last night. I bought fabric and started it last night, and also found some for my stash. We'll get to all that in a little bit. I'm rambling. Let's sew. You have to get up now, Lucky. No. Okay, I always have time to pet you a little bit, but also I really need to start sewing. Do you understand the concept of work and employment?
Since this was definitely a rush project, I was very much limited in my fabric choices. Basically, I was limited to whatever I had in my stash or my local Joann store already had in stock. I went to their linen and linen look section. Joann's really doesn't have any wool, and if they do, it's not the kind that I would want for this type of outfit. So I selected these two linens. The blue I was going to use for my Tunica, and then the gold yellow-like, flame-like linen I was going to use for my Palla, because the Palla is the outermost garment that would sometimes be draped over the head as well. And I was doing some research once upon a time about wedding traditions, and I came across Roman wedding traditions, and it was typical that a girl would wear a yellow veil or flammeum as part of her wedding outfit. So I kind of liked the idea of being able to share that fun fact with my audience as well. I got 4 yards of the blue linen to make my Tunica. I folded the fabric in half so there was 2 yards on each side, and then I went ahead and cut across the fold, which will be where my head is going to go. Now you could leave this fold intact and just cut a head hole, but I'm doing a particular style of Tunica in which I will need that open. I am then going to go ahead and hem my opening and essentially my neckline and my sleeves. I love how this is just a giant rectangle. This is an outfit that I can actually make and not stress out too much about in 48 hours. The tunica, or tunic, was the fundamental item of clothing throughout the history of ancient Rome. It was worn by all classes, including high-ranking nobility, the equestrian orders, the plebeians, the military, slaves, men and women alike. Of course, the color, the decoration, and material of your tunica are going to set you apart in terms of status. I sewed up the sides of my tunica, leaving about 10 inches at the top, which is where my hands are going to go. I then took my head measurement and lined that up with the center of the tunica, and then I started to mark with pins where my beads were going to go, because I have been inspired by this beautiful statue. This statue is of Laveria Drusilla, or Julia Augusta, as she became known after her adoption into the Julian family. She was Roman empress from 27 BCE to 14 AD, and she was the wife of Emperor Augustus. In this statue, you can see that she is wearing a tunica, a stola, and a palla. But right now, what we're really going to focus on is her sleeves. You can see there are little buttons or beads making this beautiful gap diamond design on her arm, and that is what I will be recreating here with some wooden beads.
I feel like a little bit like a wall. But I like the way that it drapes when I put my arms down. And I think the sleeve length is really cool. And I like how it looks with the little gaps and the little wooden beads. So, it's really long. I definitely need to hem it. I might have been able to get away with just 3 yards instead of 4 yards, but c'est la vie.
For the Stola, I had some red linen-like fabric that I found in my fabric stash and decided to use to make the Stola. The Stola is basically like the female version of the toga. The toga denoted that a man was a citizen of Rome. The Stola, in comparison, denoted that a woman was indeed a citizen of Rome. Due to the time and how the Roman Republic worked, they still couldn't vote, which is kind of sad, but they could wear stolas. The stola also denoted that a woman was married, and it was kind of considered part of her matronly modesty to wear the stola. I used the entire length of the red fabric and then just put one giant seam up the unfinished sides and then left the salvage edges as they were, because they're salvage edges. They don't really need to be hem, and again, we are on a time crunch. Now, the way that you would put on the stola is you would dive into the tuba fabric and then you would pin on the shoulders your stola together, creating long draping sleeves. You would then belt the stola. Most of the places that I looked up said that it would be belted twice, once under the bust and then once around the hips, kind of creating this poofy effect around the midsection. Up next, we have the Palla. The Palla, I basically left just as it was, all 4 yards. I could have gotten 5 yards. I think the Pallas are supposed to be a little bit longer, but budget constraints made me only get 4. And I left the salvage edges be, and then I just double folded and hemmed the 2 raw edges, and then my Palla was complete. The Palla is worn by being draped over the left shoulder and then goes across the back under the right arm and back up to the left shoulder. It could be taken and drawn over the head as a outer tunic-like garment to protect you from the weather. And here is my completed Roman look for our When in Rome homeschool day at the Northeast Georgia History Center. I presented on Roman fashion and beauty and the Roman baths. We had a lot of fun. The kids got to try on some of the clothes. Some of them came in their own clothes, which was super cute. We also tried olive oil on our skin as a moisturizer, as well as lanolin, which is a type of sheep's fat. And then I also had a strigil, so we would scrape off the olive oil. It was a wonderful time. We plan on doing this program again, probably next year, so be on the lookout on the Northeast Georgia History Center website if you are interested in attending this event. I will link it in the description box below, along with my resources that I used to create this outfit. Thanks so much. And also, I would like to give a special shout out to my patrons of the Historical Belle Society. You are one of the reasons why I am actually able to do this and to create these outfits to share with my community. So thank you so much.